Okay, I'm going to work through the review problems here. This first one is kind of different than what we've seen before, but I'll just go through this, and I think you'll see this not so hard. First thing we need to know about the mean is that when you have a mean, it actually has a physical meaning, which is that if you take a block shaped like this, for example, and you were going to balance it on your finger, the mean in terms of where this weight is distributed would be the center of the weight. So have you ever heard of center of mass? Well, that's what it is. So if you put your finger in a certain place on this block, then you would be able to balance this block so that it wouldn't tip to the left or right. So for example, if you saw a weight that was shaped like this, where would you put your finger to balance it exactly? And if you look at this shape, this has a characteristics that, this part is symmetrical. And if it's symmetrical, then you could just put your finger right in the middle, right? The only difference between this and a symmetrical object is this little piece here. So this little piece here makes it kind of heavier on the left, right? So then you would stick your finger maybe a little bit to the left. So normally you would put your finger right here to balance it, okay? But instead you're going to just put your finger a little bit to the left because of this little block here. That's what you would guess, right? And so if you were going to make a guess as to where the center of mass is, that's what you would guess also. Find the exact middle here, and then you would put your finger a little bit to the left because of this little piece here. Okay? So that's how you estimate the mean of a shape like this. Now let's do the same thing here. Okay? Now this one, if it was shaped like this, it would also be symmetrical, and then you would put your finger exactly in the middle, right there, right? But it has this other piece here. Okay, so then it makes it a little bit more heavy to the right of this. So instead of putting your finger right in the middle, you would put your finger a little bit to the right, right? So this is going to be your guess for the mean, and that's going to be your guess for the mean. A little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, okay? And then we'll look at this one. This one is pretty hard. Okay, so let's see. If it was here, then you would put it right to the right, kind of in the middle of this, right? But there's no piece here, and instead there's a few pieces here. Well, actually, there's a big long piece here, which kind of makes the thing tip to the right if you put your finger here, right? Just imagine which way the thing is going to tip when you put your finger there. So move your finger a little bit over to the right, right? Because if you put it exactly here in the middle, it's obviously going to tip too far to the right because of all these blocks over here. If you put it a little bit to the right, maybe that would be okay. So our guess for the mean would be about there, right? Okay, and the last one's here. Now, if it was like this, it would be symmetrical. If it didn't have this and it had this, and then you would put your finger right here in the middle, right? Now, since it moves this block over here, maybe you would move it slightly to the right. Okay? So, what are our guesses here? Well, this one, I don't know, it looks like it's maybe 190. This would be 195. This would be 193 maybe? That's just a guess. Doesn't have to be exact. This one here, this would be 195 here. Maybe that would be what, 192? And then here, this would be 185 maybe in the middle. Maybe this would be 186, right? And then here, this would be maybe 185. This would be maybe 187. Okay? Alright, so we have an idea as to which mean is what. Okay? I don't think this really gives us a good idea of which one of these goes to what, but let's move on to the standard deviation. Now remember, the standard deviation is how far your blocks are spread out in relation to the mean. So here's our guessed mean, right? And would you say that these blocks are close to this line or far away from this line? And now this is all relative, so let's look at this one. We'll look at this one. We'll look at this one. Now the purple line I'm drawing is our guessed mean. Okay, and so if you like look, okay, which one of these is like most spread out from the blue line? Okay, or which one is the most compressed? Well, you know, like this looks pretty compressed, right? All of them are pretty close. And this looks very far, right? So I would say this would have the biggest standard deviation, right? Because like it has a lot of blocks to the end and very few blocks close, right? This has a lot of blocks close and just one block that's farther away, okay? And so maybe this would be maybe the smallest. I'll put a question mark here because we're not sure. And then these would be kind of in between. You know, maybe this would be less than this because this has got this big long bar out here. That helps to make the standard deviation bigger. Okay, so maybe this would be like the second biggest. It's just a guess for now. Okay, now let's go down. Now that we've looked at these, we'll look down at the choices here. Okay, and we see that there's standard deviation. We have two that are below 190 and we have two that are above 190, and so that matches exactly up with this, right? There's two that are above 190 and there's two that are below 190, so that kind of goes together. Okay, so and then we look at the sigmas, the standard deviations. Now these two are very close, and then there's one that's a little bigger and then there's one that's the biggest, and that kind of also goes with what we were thinking. We thought there was a quite big one here. We're pretty sure this is the biggest standard deviation. So why don't we put that for the biggest standard deviation? And also, if you look at our guessed mean 192, that's not so far off from 194. That's kind of close. Okay, so we're going to put B for this one. Okay. All right. Now for 2, or I'm sorry, the other one that has a mean above 190 would be this one, right? Because these are below 190, our guessed means. Okay, so this A would be this one, right? Because there's only one other one with a mean that's above 190. Okay, so we'll put A for that. Now these two, let's see, they're kind of similar. The mean is almost the same, and the standard deviation, this one is bigger than this one, and it's quite a bit bigger. Okay, so if we look at our two guesses for the mean, we have two that are, you know, basically the same, slightly below 190. So obviously C and D, one of them is here and one of them is here, right? But which one is which? Well, we guessed that this had the second biggest standard deviation. This one just was a regular one. So we'll put D for the smaller standard deviation, and we'll put this one in the biggest. Or the bigger. Okay, this was the biggest, this is the second biggest. So, okay, so you know, they don't give you very many numbers here, so you can't actually figure out the mean too well. You're just guessing. But using this technique of imagining that's a bunch of blocks you're bouncing on your finger, you can kind of figure out the direction of which side the mean is. Is the mean to the left of 190? Is the mean to the right to 190? Okay, and you can pretty much know for sure that your guess is right for that. And then for the standard deviation, it's just to see how far away the blocks are from the mean. Okay, so let's go to the very end. The very end is just to fill the table out, the answer sheet. So 1 would be B, and 2 would be C, and 3 would be D, and 4 would be A. And that's it for problem 1.